You're listening to Contesting Wrestling, Minisode 41, where we are reviewing our week with The New Day. And I have been told that this is an excellent week, that our timing couldn't have been better, although I don't know why, because I don't pay attention to what's going on with wrestling. So somebody please explain what's happening.
The New Day, the wrestling phenomenon that has lasted longer than the Confederacy, continues on. But now there is only one member of the New Day that is going to be on WWE television for the time being, because Xavier Woods was already injured. Kofi Kingston is leaving to tend to some injuries as well. They lost the tag team titles at the last pay-per-view, the Extreme Rules thing. And on SmackDown, Kofi Kingston, they did a vignette where Kofi Kingston said to Big E, "Hey man, I'm going away for a while. Now is your time to shine on your own."
Oh man.
Can we just go with Big E, please?
He was way more specific than that. He said that both himself and Xavier had always been, behind him, and they recognized that Big E has always been completely selfless. It's always been about the group, about the New Day. Kingston mentioned how when he was WWE champion, there was no pushback or jealousy or anything, that Big E was 100% behind him. And that he told Big E not to wait 10 years before getting his like he did, and that they expected big things from him. So it's his time. Big E pushed back a little, and finally Kofi convinced him, no, it's about you now. And he ended it with the best call to hug I've ever heard. He said, "All right, now put your meat on my meat." There was a big hug.
And then, of course, apparently Booker T chimed in. I don't know if this was maybe an old interview with telling Biggie he's going to have to quit doing some of the goofy New Day stuff to be successful, which is like, no, he doesn't.
No, he has to do whatever is in his heart, because that's clearly
pancakes.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I'm not the authority to say this sort of thing, but I mean, I think a lot of people would agree Booker T cannot be the single voice of authority of black wrestling.
Right. It's not my place. It's not my place to say it on a race or anything about race or anything. But I do think anytime he's opened his mouth recently, he seemed quite out of touch with what the fans want. And that's no disrespect to him. I think there's a lot to be learned from him regarding just wrestling in general and working. He's one of the best workers of the last 20 years. But as far as being in touch with what the fans actually want to see, anytime I've heard him say anything in an interview the last year or so, it's been to tell the fans that are asking for something, no, you don't want that.
Well, also, the peak of his career in the WWE was when he was doing the King Booker routine, which was really goofy.
Yeah,
he always did the goofy stuff, and he was a hugely successful wrestler. And he also, to his credit, he left before he had to. He could have been a successful wrestler for another several years. I'd believe it if he came out and did it. But yeah, no, Big E needs to change. Nothing. The fans have fallen in love with the New Day. They've fallen in love with Big E and the other guys in the New Day. I don't see why you'd need to change it now.
Well, it seems like one of these things where the reason people love him, the reason people are behind him, the reason it is his time now is because he has been following his heart creatively and doing the kind of stuff that he wants to do and putting out the kind of character he wants. So the idea is just oh, well, you've gotten to this point and gotten people to love you by being true to yourself. But now if you want to be successful, you should change that. No, that's dumb. No. That's not how it works.
They've done that too many times with wrestlers, and it never works. Like when they get popular and they want to make them a main event babyface, just stripping them of everything that made them popular in the first place. And it never ends well.
Vince has a certain idea in his mind of who the top babyface is, and it hasn't changed that much over the years. The fact that he went so far with Stone Cold Steve Austin and his edgy character was quite an anomaly even at the time. But they've done it numerous times where the fans would start liking a heel, they'd turn the heel babyface, and then as soon as they won the championship, they'd be like corporate smiling babyface, and everybody would stop caring about them. Now, to Big E's credit, in this situation, he is not already a heel. The fans already love him for him. So just once again, don't mess with it.
Look,
Let him be Biggie.
I
Don't
have
break up the New Day.
I have no qualms in saying that, like, Biggie is probably my favorite wrestler in the WWE right now. Like, the only other two I can think, the only one I could think maybe is Asuka, but it's Biggie, man.
I would say, like, I mean, I said this before. I think I might have said this on both episodes this week, but fuck it, I'll say it a third time. I've been told wrestling fans love repetition, so this works.
Wrestling fans love repetition.
Wrestling fans love repetition.
It's true. Wrestling fans love repetition.
Love repetition. These pretzels are making me thirsty.
But it's that I feel like the most there's this quality that a handful of people have that is just this like almost visual electricity that like shoots off of them, and I feel like the people that I have seen thus far in wrestling that have that are like Chris Jericho, Asuka, Big E, Cassidy, like, and not even to say that they're like the best, like that's an arbitrary kind of concept, the best, but there's like, in terms of just people who they show up on screen and you kind of calm down a little bit because you're like, oh, I'm in good hands.
So there's a word for that in wrestling, and it's just known as it. And nobody can really like, you're trying to, and nothing that you have said so far is wrong, but you could talk for hours and not quite capture what it is. But a wrestler that has it, you see it. You can see it in a guy like Big E. Yeah, you can see it in a guy like Big E, even like when we watched his NXT match. He wasn't fully developed with it, but he caught your attention. You know this guy's special, and everybody you mentioned has that. And, having it and fulfilling it are two different things. A guy like Teddy Hart has it coming out of his face and every place else in his body. But he's just messed up over and over again. And he's such a horrible person that it's never going to be fulfilled. And then because they've signed him to developmental a couple of times.
Like
and every time they've
twice at least.
Every time they release him in a few months, citing, well, he's very talented, but man, he's an asshole. We can't deal with this, And the wrestling business is finally starting to, in general, give up on him after almost 20 years of everyone thinking, well, Teddy could do something. No, he can't. It is wasted it, and I do not like wasted it.
You know who had it and they wasted it?
Oh.
Rusev.
Yes.
Yep.
Who has now claimed that he is leaving wrestling. Very sadly.
He's claimed that before.
He also got kicked off of Twitch, or got not kicked off, but
what
was suspended from Twitch.
Oh no! What did he do?
I don't know. He says that it was because he was too sexy.
Oh dear!
I can't argue with that. Rusev is quite sexy. There's a reason he's married to someone as attractive as Lana.
More people who have it. And this is coming to some other recent events that I want to talk about. So we last week we talked a little on the Minisode. We talked a bit about the horror show at Extreme Rules and how bad it was as a show.
I'm still not over how bad it was.
However, the Asuka Sasha Banks match, despite having a wonky finish, was quite a good match up until the finish.
Oh, it was incredible up until the finish. The finish was just such an overbooked mess that it took away from it.
So 2 weeks later on Raw, they settled the title situation between them, Sasha Banks coming out with the Raw Women's title. So now, Bayley and Sasha are still the Women's Tag Team Champions. Bayley is the SmackDown Women's Champion. Sasha is the Raw Women's Champion. People have remarked that this makes them the fifth team in WWE history to have the tag team titles while both members also have singles titles. What nobody has pointed out is that they are the first ever tag team, I believe, in all of wrestling history, but definitely WWE history, to have a tag team championship while both being world champion. No one had done that before.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
that is a good point, Professor Abelson.
It's quite a lofty one, and it's a great accomplishment from the two of them. Ember Moon was doing some media, and she was complaining about how all of the titles are concentrated on the two people when they have such a division with so many stars on it and everything, and that so much of the focus has been on the four horsewomen. And Bailey released a counter statement saying, yeah, well, come take it from us. Where are you? On the shelf, by the way. Ember Moon is a great wrestler, but she is constantly injured. And if she could just get a run of a year in a row together, she could be on top of the division with everyone else. And I'm not blaming her for getting injured. You get injured or you don't, but don't think it doesn't take away from your career when you're constantly cutting 6-month chunks out of it.
Also, I don't think we've ever mentioned it, but the Bailey and Sasha, when they were baby faces, suffered from having a terrible tag team name, the Boss and Hug Connection. Now, as heels, they are the golden role models.
Which is interesting because Britt Baker is also a role model. They both happened within like similar time frames. It was a little...
Yeah, I think they might actually have had her in mind as a reference, but they certainly have the Golden Lovers.
Yes, of course.
Britt Baker is a role model like Roll Wheels, though, because she's currently injured. Right. Yeah.
In peripherally related wrestling news, what oftentimes we'll for like a date night kind of thing we'll watch whatever the new episode of How Did This Get Made, the Great Bad Movie podcast is. We'll like find that movie and watch it and then listen to the podcast, because we've been together for a long time, so we don't do like exciting things for date night. We just do things that are inside exciting. It's fun. And so I haven't watched it yet, but there is a movie very recently released, and I'll give an update on how this movie is next week because we're going to watch it. Money Plane, starring Edge and Kelsey Grammer and Joey Lawrence. And Thomas Jane, who's a great actor. And a bunch of other randos. Oh. And it's about robbing... It looks really weird. It's got 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. That sounds about right
for something like what you described.
It's about there's a secret indestructible plane in the sky that's like a casino where you can bet on anything. And
secret indestructible casino plane. Okay.
And then Kelsey Grammer asks Edge to rob it. So Edge is the main character.
Edge is the main character.
I want the drugs that the scriptwriter who wrote that.
Well, I think it's the drugs of they watched Money Train starring Wesley Snipes from like 1996 and were like, what if this was in the sky and starred Edge?
We need to do like Starship Money.
Yeah, go as far out as possible. Money Ship.
It's amazing how low the stakes can be. Just once you become a working actor, you can get roles like starring in Money Plane if people think you're decent. And Kelsey Grammer, Jesus, he used to ask for money to do things. I mean, I don't know what the budget for this was or what the hopes were for it.
Doesn't look high from what I saw in the trailer.
Yeah,
doesn't look like they had I feel like they blew their money on the 4 hours they got Kelsey Grammer to come to set.
Right.
Like, I'm going to guess that was 30% of their budget.
He has to ask for decent money. You know that.
Being a big television star also does not guarantee you're going to be a big movie star when movies and the people in Hollywood know this. They don't automatically put you in big movies. They might give you a shot. But if your name doesn't carry a bad movie to good box office, like you'll see sometimes, it was just starting to happen with Batista before the quarantine, really, is that he was starting to be the big face on posters for middling movies.
Family movies is what it is.
The Rock did it for a while.
Tooth Fairy.
The Tooth Fairy starring The Rock. I'm not going to say it's a good or a bad movie. I'm sure it's not brilliant. But man, did people go see The Rock in Tooth Fairy the way they did not go see Hulk Hogan in Mr. Nanny. And
right, yeah, he had that status, but he never got
that
out.
Specific test.
Yeah, right. I think Batista would be good enough to pass it. Well, the biggest difference between Rock and Batista and like Hogan is that Rock and Batista threw themselves at acting and started taking acting lessons. And Hogan was just Hogan.
Look, Tooth Fairy had a budget, and I just looked this up, of $48 million and made $112.5 million. So
That's
Tooth Fairy
bankable.
passed that test. And what was the one Hogan did?
Mr. Nanny.
Which one?
Well, he did a few in the early 90s.
Suburban Commando, Three Ninjas, Three.
Mr. Nanny. Let's go with Mr. Nanny, because Mr. Nanny had a budget of $10 million and made a box office of $4.3 million.
I was in general, I feel like this is another example of how a lot of the energy that used to be behind cool movies now just goes into TV, because movies that come out now are either movies that had a budget of under $1 million or over $150 million.
Movies don't come out right now.
Yeah, that were, but yeah.
I'm never going to get to see Mulan.
Like,
The only reason to go see a movie in the theater, I think, is for it to be this like huge immersive experience that, you know, wouldn't look as cool on your little TV. So it makes sense that the movies that come out are the really big blockbuster, big budget ones.
But yeah, I feel like there used to be, you know, in the 80s and 90s, you saw a lot more of these kind of like mid-budget, like either like comedies with a relatively high budget or action movies with a relatively low budget, like things that cost like about $40 million bucks, and just like, yeah, we're like, you know, banked on two fun lead actors doing, and it's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of fun movies in that genre.
Yeah, but I'm not going to shell out like $20
No,
to see a
definitely
movie
not.
I could see at
Well,
home.
that's
you
the
know?
problem. You know, the price of the movie ticket has certainly outstripped inflation by a significant margin. So the price of the movie ticket has certainly outstripped inflation. I mean, the prices keep getting higher and higher, and the perks are like, I don't necessarily want to pay $20 to go see a movie, you know, and it's not like it was really, like I live in New York City. It's not like going to a movie was ever like cheap, but there were always ways to get slightly cheaper tickets. And I think when I was a little kid, an adult ticket was like $5 or $6, and you could do it.
Oh yeah,
You know?
there used to be like there were a bunch of second run theaters around the city where you could go see movies that came out
Right.
6 months ago for like $3, which I mean
Those
$3
don't really exist
yeah.
around here anymore.
And in some of them, smoke blunts in the back row.
Yes,
I mean,
and
you couldn't
nobody bothered
technically
you.
do that. You just did it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there was that place on 50th Street I used to go to all the time in like middle school, and $3. I mean, it's inflation's serious, but $3 then was almost $6 now, which is still like
Yeah,
movies.
not
If
20.
movies were $6, I would totally fuck with that. And yeah, and also I guess just it's such a roll of the dice.
I didn't hear the. I'm gonna say you cut out in an exact way right there, and where it sounded like you said, if movies were $6, I would totally fuck Ben. I don't know what you actually said, but that's what I heard.
I said I would fuck with them.
Ah, good.
There we go. No, I would fuck Ben no matter how much movies were.
We're gonna keep all that in.
Ben, no, put it
So,
away. Put it away.
But there is such a it's such a roll of the dice when you go see a movie too. Like I remember I watched Batman vs Superman at home, and like being able to watch it at home, like and like get high and make fun of it was great. But I was just like, if I had paid money to go see this in a theater, like I would have led a mob to somebody's house. I would have been so upset.
Yeah, you know those are the stakes. I mean, the whole industry is crashing because of the pandemic, and finally, some studios are like, "Well, we're just going to release our movies at home first," and the theaters are like, "You can't do that," and the studios are saying, "I believe you'll find that we can."
Christopher Nolan is fighting so hard to keep his movie from being released because he's like, it has to be seen in the theater. It has to be, and yeah, we'll see if that works.
I mean, his movies historically have been, like, every movie I've seen's clearly been designed for a big screen.
Oh,
Yeah. But not that many movies in the grand scheme of things have to be like that.
No.
You know? And I could totally see like a movie auteur demanding time in the theater, but that all depends on the economics of it, doesn't it? You know, the only reason they get $200 million to make a movie is the studio expects them to make back double that, and they're not going to mess with that just so that, you know, the guy who the studio really just sees as a hire throws a hissy fit. That's not the deal.
So speaking of hissy fits, I realized, was Was it? Yeah, last week on the Minisode, we were talking about animals murdering for fun.
Yes.
And we wondered whether the hippo does so and whether any animals do.
They
and then
attacked
it
Shawn
occurred
Michaels.
to me. Right.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, we're all cat people. Cats very clearly murder for fun.
Oh,
Yes.
Georgie murders. Georgie is sadistic when she gets mice.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that happened on this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had to stop for like
I-
15 minutes because it's like we can't talk wrestling with this nature documentary happening in the living room.
That was
But
the
is
week
it-
she
is
caught
that
like an
fun?
entire family. Oh, she's
Yeah.
she's
For
definitely
fun, though.
having fun when it happens.
The way they play around with their victims.
The way they will throw him and let him run away and catch him and let him run away and catch him and then
Yeah,
wait
come on.
and then stalk and let him run away.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I had a
Or
cat
either
once
you're-
where if they found a mouse, that mouse would live another 2 days, and we'd see the mouse getting more and more decrepit, and it was really horrifying as the cat decided when its life would be over.
Your cats, Evan, strike me as the type that are afraid of the mice.
So it's actually surprising. Dax, the incredibly social, possibly friendliest cat I've ever known in my life, who just gets up in your face and runs out into the hallway all the time and stuff like that, will do nothing if you put a mouse in. You could put a wounded mouse in front of her and she will look at it and be like, yeah, okay, and just walk away. Bashir, who is terrified of humans and noises and everything and hides in places all the time, and is also a snuggle beast when nobody's looking. But he will fucking hunt and murder a mouse with relentless ferocity.
Well, he was the one that was a street cat, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So he
That's
remembers.
That's
Yeah.
why. That's what
also-
Georgie too. She was a street cat, so she remembers.
That's also typical bully behavior. You're afraid of the people who are bigger than you. As soon as you get someone smaller, you take all of that aggression out on them.
Yeah, so Bash is actually a dick.
The fuck you saying about my cat, guys? Wow, wow. You've cared for him,
Yes,
Katie.
Yes.
Yeah, and
You've held him in your arms.
He flipped me the bird and called me a piece of shit.
He did. He told me about that.
The last time I saw him, he actually came out for a second.
He comes if you
in
come
my
if you're
presence,
over
so-
for a few hours, he'll come out towards the end of that and maybe investigate you or something. But it's he's wary overall.
So speaking of bullies, the other night on AEW, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, cut an incredible promo that was sort of in the guise of a politician. A little bit of Trump in there for sure, but he was able to kind of make the promo, use the trappings and the language of the current political environment without actually saying anything political, except insofar that he criticized the AEW product in all of the ways that I and I think others on this show have criticized it over the weeks. And I'm very excited because I think this is the start of a mega push for him. And now that David Starr, for good reasons, has been canceled, he is the one hope for my people in wrestling. Until people start to catch on to my friend Joey Silver, who just did some matches for a group called Synergy Pro Wrestling in New Jersey, where he wrestled with a PPE mask on to demonstrate that it does not prevent you from participating in physical activity whatsoever.
Nice. That's awesome.
So good for Joey Silver.
Yeah, good.
I want to
He's
take.
wrestling Charles Mason, who's also a great up-and-coming indie wrestler.
I want to quickly acknowledge that in past episodes on this podcast, before the stuff about Star came out, we spoke very highly of him and his efforts to unionize wrestling, and he's a piece of shit, and I'm glad he's canceled. And I'm glad he's out of the industry, and it really upsets me. If you're an asshole in your personal life, don't make yourself the face of like a justice movement or an organizing movement, man. Like also don't be a piece of shit in your personal life for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
like
for a lot of
it's
reasons.
a lot of
Well,
reasons
you know,
should
you
do
get
that.
Well,
this-
when it came out, what he was doing, and his responses made him seem like a sociopath that doesn't realize he's the asshole.
And it's like not only are you fucking up, you know, your life, not only are you fucking up the life of the people that like you have been shitty to, but you're also in the eyes of a lot of other people like sort of discrediting the things that you have associated yourself with, and that's really fucked up because there really needs to be a wrestling union. It's a really important thing, and that only set it back. And so fuck David Starr on multiple levels.
You get
Mostly
these
fuck him
criticisms
for
from
the-
Yeah, obviously. No. I'm absolutely saying that. Just, you know, yeah.
you get these criticisms from the right all the time that people who are fighting for social justice are just making up for their own guilt for whatever bad things they've done in their life or that sort of thing. Don't make that true, please. And unfortunately, all too often it's the case that the people who are, you know, complaining the most loudly about something are the most guilty of it.
And
As it says in the Bible, right?
just wanted to mention it because we hadn't mentioned anything since it came up, and but since his name came up, I was like, let's just be clear about that because I had been concerned about that.
I have a couple of things that I want to plug that I think are really cool. So Now This, which was, you know, this like left wing but like kind of clickbait news operation
Slightly
that got
better
sort of
than
popular.
Upworthy.
Yeah, in 2016. I think they were coming from the
What were
right
they?
place. Now This.
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, I know somebody who used to work for them at least.
I think they come from the right place, but I think they did a lot of damage to like people's news consumption habits in general. But anyway, they've teamed up with former pro wrestler Natalie Eva Marie, who's certainly a divisive individual in wrestling. I think we've talked about her a little bit on the podcast.
bit.
She was not good
She
at
was
wrestling.
bad at wrestling.
No, they hired her mainly to be a character on Total Divas, which she excelled at.
Well, so I think she'll probably do well as the host of this show, Faces and Heels. It's a direct to Facebook show, highlighting several women in pro wrestling right now, including Marty Bell, Jordan Grace, Kiara Hogan, Kiana Bell, like a bunch of really cool people. And I saw the first episode, and it was great. They're like 10 minutes long. I highly recommend people check that out. The other thing I wanted to plug is the Nobodies just came out with an episode where they talk about that Kana Meiko Satomura match that we covered a while back when we did the Asuka
nice.
episode.
That was a
That's a
real
very
good match.
entertaining episode as well.
Yeah, with the interesting lighting and the musician.
Yes, and the last thing is I wanted to mention this when we did the New Day episode. The WWE Network has this show Table for Three, where they have three wrestlers share a meal and talk about history. And there's an episode on the New Day that was done like fairly early into their success, like pretty much I think right after they turned face again, after the crowd had gotten behind them, where they talk about the development of the gimmick and their struggles creatively with Vince McMahon and all that stuff. So I recommend that people check that out too.
I also I want to plug something. I just want to plug an organization that our good friend Will recommended on Twitter. Our buddy @CuteCreeper on Twitter, who works with the South Brooklyn Mutual Aid, doing a lot of really good work.
I believe we should note he is a patron.
And then he is a
yes,
patron.
Thank you, Will. I know who you are now.
Just working to build solidarity and not charity, and we want to bump them and the fine work they're doing, and you should check them out at I'll put the link in the show notes.
I'll clean it up. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Doc is turning into an editing ninja while I've been in college hell the last few weeks. So
I've been getting my hands on a few things. I don't know. I need to adjust my resume to say full-on content creator, because now I'm doing this. I've got my Twitch channel going. I started my YouTube channel, Doc Diamond Fire Gaming, about gaming.
He still hasn't learned how to twerk.
No, it just
But it's
hurts my
coming.
lower back. I'm not making any promises on the twerking front.
But I do
is
think
it?
you are. I mean, we're producers, right?
Yes.
This is what producers do,
More or
by
less,
and large.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the modern media landscape has changed so quickly. The big part about it is recognizing where the power lies, and it's more,
This is where the power lies,
yes,
brother.
Yes, the center of your hand is where the power lies, according to Hulk Hogan. But the fact
That's where
that,
I have a piece of graphite that got stuck in there in second grade.
Oh man, Ben has a tattoo on the palm of his hands that says HA for Hobart Abelson.
Every damn time.
Every
You got to
time.
bring it back every damn time. Look at him. Look at how sad he is now.
Yeah.
So
Sad.
with the advent of things like YouTube and Twitch and even just the fact that a few people can just get together and make a podcast like this, and as much as I would have a few problems with the companies that run these companies, it is now easier than ever for anybody to produce their own material from the ground up without being reliant on anybody that owns a studio or any fancy equipment or anything. And it's very freeing for anybody. And there's plenty of people who start doing it and then find that that's their job now. And all they did was, get consistent and then go viral, as it says, as they say. And then you not only go viral, but a couple 100,000 people see something you like and decide, oh, I'd like to see the rest of their stuff. So I don't know. I just find it heartening that you can do that now. You can really take a swing at it a lot better than you used to have to go to LA and beg producers for a shot anywhere at anything. No, you just get in people's faces now.
And I think that's a good place to end today, getting in people's faces.
Yeah.
This has been Contesting Wrestling. If you enjoy our stuff, you should. If you enjoy what you hear, the Monday episodes and these minisodes on Friday, we also put out a whole other episode every Wednesday on our Patreon, patreon.com/contestingwrestling, $5 a month. Also, if you make a $5 donation to any organization working if you donate to a bail fund, if you donate to mutual aid funds, if you donate to funds working with mass incarceration, anybody working towards the myriad problems facing our society at the moment, and then you send us a screenshot of your donation receipt to send that to us at ContestingW on Twitter. We will send you a link to our Patreon episodes, so you don't have to make the choice about where to send your money. If you want to give us $5 and give them $5, I'm not going to stop you. But just saying, you don't have to make that choice. Also, follow us on Twitter anyway at ContestingW. Let us know if there's anything you want us to cover, anything that you feel like we missed in previous episodes. If you just want to share your thoughts or say hi, all of those things are great. All of those things are great to do. We're also on Instagram at Contesting Wrestling.
At Contesting Wrestling Podcast.
And
Yes,
remember,
Contesting.
and remember.
Sorry.
All I was going to say is just remember, send all complaints to @ScribeBen.
Yes. That is. If I have two Twitters,
I'll argue with you.
If you want to say
it's what I do for
bad,
a living.
If you want to say something bad to me, send it to @ScribeBen, and if you want to say good things, send that to @EvanBurke, etc. This has been Contesting Wrestling. Get ready for our episode on Monday, where we are going to go to the opposite end of the WWE in many ways and
Yes.
investigate the work of a controversial classic superstar, Rowdy Roderick Piper. I'm using his given name. I'm not. This has been Contesting
are.
Wrestling. Oh, good. I am. Thank you. Okay. This has been Contesting Wrestling. Thank you. We love you. Goodbye.